Back when I was a lad, we all played with toy soldiers. Now, not all toy soldiers were created equally. There was one brand that stood way above the rest, and that of course was Britain's. Join me in this video as we take a close look at this Britain's toy catalogue from 1979. Welcome back, and as I just said, back in the 80s we all played with toy soldiers, whether that be the cheap plastic knockoffs that came from markets, or in my case I remember getting them from the local supermarket, or the more detailed, well-painted, metal-based figures from Britain's. Now I've picked up this here Britain's toy catalogue from 1979. The reason I did that was it came into my mind that Britain's soldiers were a big part of my childhood, and once again these are something else that I sold on eBay in the early 2000s and I'm now regretting doing so. So I thought I would take a look at the catalogue to see what it was that I remembered having and may just start collecting them again. Now the catalogue is very small and I will require my specs to look at this, but don't worry, you guys watching at home will get the close-up look at these pages. So without further ado, let's see what Britain's was offering us back in 1979. So looking at the front page here, we have police helicopter and what appears to be a rescue helicopter, and this is all the toys that were new for 1979. Now I should point out as well that even though I was raised an only child, I do have two older half-brothers, and I would get a lot of their hand-me-down toys, many of which came from the 70s. So a lot of this in this catalogue will be things that I did play with as a child. But there you go, Britain's toy catalogue 1979. So on the first page we have farm vehicles, which is interesting. Now to the best of my knowledge I didn't have any of these. Most of my die casts were either Corgi or Matchbox, but these do look like some pretty detailed tractors and other agricultural vehicles. I'm pretty sure in this day and age kids probably wouldn't thank you for a toy tractor, but it's nice to see them here. Next page, more farm equipment. This is farm implements. So I guess if you did have the tractor you could buy additional plows and things. Pretty interesting. They've even got a post hole digger. Very detailed actually. And I'm sure they must have animals as well to go with this, because I did have some animals as a kid. And right on cue we have farming. Now from looking at this, I do remember having a couple of cows in my toy box as a kid, and I suspect these were ones from the early 70s. I think I had a couple of horses as well, possibly the Clydesdale. It is nice to look at these, it's quite quaint looking. They even have a scarecrow. Got some geese, some ducks. Yeah, it's an innocent time back then. Very nice. More farm stuff. So we've got farm buildings, got a livestock building, even got a feeder. This is very nice. And riding, so horse riders. Now I'm assuming that something like horse riding could have been unisex, so girls I guess could have gotten into these. And as we see on the bottom here, we do have sets that include all the vehicles, all the horses and whatnot in one box. Quite nice. Wildlife. I'm thinking here, I did have a zebra and possibly the gorilla as a kid. Nothing else really sort of rings any bells, but it's pretty cool. They even have the nice safari Land Rover. Here we go, this is more like it, military and gun. So in terms of the vehicles on this page, I only really had the one, I think, and that was the German combination motorcycle sidecar. And that thing was very heavy, as I recall. Very well made, it should be mentioned. The Britain stuff was solid. Definitely better made than Corgi and Matchbox. And some of these gun models did actually fire the plastic bullets, which was a lot of fun. Although whilst I didn't have any of these, I did have many sort of cannons and things that would fire those little plastic projectiles. But I am liking the look of some of these military vehicles. Who knows if I'll track those down. Now here we go, this is exactly what I had. So I had all of the British infantry we can see here, and I think I had most, if not all, of the German infantry. Did not have any US infantry, and I did not have any of the British 8th Army or the German Africa Corps, but I did have the cheap plastic versions of these, which I think may have been made by Airfix. So clearly what they've done is, I'm guessing there must be, let me just count this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so there were 6 different British infantry figures plus the mortar and crew. Same with the US infantry, but it looks like there was double the amount of Germans, so I guess you had the Allied forces against the Germans there. And I was going to say it's equal numbers with the British 8th Army and German Africa Corps, but that's not the case because the British also get the Vickers machine gun and crew. Now looking over on this page, I did have the remains of this 2-man submarine. I remember, obviously it was handed down to me and the figures were missing, but I do remember that sort of weird 2-man submarine. And again, you had the options to get all the figures in one go in these box sets, which are pretty cool. I wonder if those are still surviving on eBay. I'll need to take a look. But yeah, this was definitely the figures that I remembered having. Now we've got Knights and Turks. I don't believe I had any of those. Although possibly I remember one of the horses being in my toy box. And on this page we have the Battle of Waterloo. Definitely did not have any of those, but those look pretty nice. But I think when I was a kid, we were all about the World War II stuff. You know, this Knights and Turks and Waterloo it wasn't deemed as being boring, but compared to the army, it wasn't quite as cool. The American Civil War. And such are the times we live in that if you were to show this on your channel, you'd probably end up getting cancelled because some people find an historical flag offensive, which is quite something. But back in the 70s, 80s, it was part of history, so kids played with these. And now we have the 7th Cavalry versus the Apache Indians. That looks kind of nice. Definitely did not have any of this stuff as a kid, but it does look well detailed, nicely done. Cowboys and Indians. Hang on, thinking about it now, I may have had a couple of these Indians in my toy box. Those do look somewhat familiar, but we have some nice vehicles and horses to go with this. Couple of canoes. It's all very well thought out. Britain's really did cover all the bases here. And police, I definitely never had any of these. I didn't even know these were a thing. And very interesting, we have ballet figures. So clearly they were trying to attract the girls, because there was no way any young boy was going to buy a ballet figure. I imagine boys today probably wouldn't want to, but when I was a kid, no way was there any boy buying a ballet figure. Motorcycles, these look nice, and interestingly they've repeated some of the World War II vehicles we just looked at. So I did, as I said, have the German combination, but some of these look really nice. And we have the Scots Guards, which pretty cool, and metal models. So all the figures we've looked at up until this point were plastic figures on a metal base, but they did have some metal figures, and I believe that's how they did things prior to the 70s. I think it's when the 70s came round, there were developments in the way plastic was made guess it was cheaper or whatever, so that's why the figures were plastic with metal bases. But these are indeed metal figures on metal bases, and that's the back there with a bit of everything on display. Absolutely fantastic. And of course, as you can see, not a barcode in sight or a website address. This was the time when, if you wanted to know what was new and exciting in the world of toys, you really did have to get hold of one of these paper catalogues. But there you go, that was the Britain's catalogue from 1979. I hope you enjoyed that trip down memory lane. I sure enjoyed looking back at these and having a few memories triggered. I hope the same happened with you. Now, my question for myself is, am I going to try to track some of these down? And I think the answer is, I probably have to, because these were a big part of my childhood. And having seen them again, I'm thinking those would look nice on display. You know, get a nice little World War II scene going on. Obviously, I'm not going to go full on in because I've no idea how much these things cost today. I don't imagine they're that much. It's not quite as desirable as things like Star Wars or Transformers. So hopefully, if I do dive into this, it won't be too much. But there you go. Let me know in the comments, did you have Britain's detail toy figures as a kid? And if so, did you like them? As always, thank you so much for watching. Please like the video, please share the video, please make sure you're subscribed, and stay tuned for more videos from All Things 80s.